Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner Precinct 1.
Present.
Andy A. Quinn, Commissioner Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Thank you. Our invocation today will be delivered by Pastor Dennis Hester from the First Baptist Church of Watauga. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Would you pray with me? Father, we gather today before you, who are our Creator. You're the sustainer of all that we see and all that we know. You're the author of all that is right and just. And you're the one who gives life and hope. You're the one who sets these governments and powers in place. So we thank you for our freedom and the blessings that we experience in this country, in this state, and in this county. We pray for our nation today as we begin this election season and ask that you'd give wisdom to the leaders, but also give wisdom to the voters throughout this year. Father, I pray for the protection and for those who protect our cities and our state. I thank you for the men who line this back wall and the men and women that they represent who defend our county in the Sheriff's Department, for the Police Department, they have our various cities who protect us. And ask that you protect them and protect our military that's spread out around the world to protect our freedom. Father, I pray for these men who sit before us today who lead our county. Ask, Lord, that you would give them humility in their service, that you'd also give them wisdom in their deliberation and patience as they work with one another. Thank you, Lord, for their faithfulness to serve their constituents. Thank you for these blessings, Lord. We pray in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have two announcements as it relates to the agenda this morning. The first one is under proclamations. It's item 6A. There is a revised resolution in your packet this morning. The second one is under the Purchasing Department. It's item 8I6. This is RFQ 2016-225. There was a minor correction made in the coding on the budget-related impact, and we've made that correction, and it should be in your red folder also. One final note, Your Honor and members of the court, just remember that February 23rd, we are not having a Commissioners Court meeting that day. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Okay, court members, we have before you the minutes of January 26th.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion to second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a resolution as well as our employee recognition today, and the resolution is National Wear Red Day, and I will read. I believe we have Jasmine Holstrup, Allison Weldon, and Judy Shelton. Would y'all please come forward and let me read this resolution into the record. Whereas an estimated 44 million women in the U.S. are affected by cardiovascular disease, with cardiovascular diseases and strokes killing 1 woman in 3 in the U.S., yet 80% of the cardiac events may be prevented. And whereas 90% of women have 1 or more risk factors for developing heart disease, yet only 1 in 5 American women believe heart disease is her greatest health threat. And whereas the risk factors for heart disease are smoking, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, obesity, physical inactivity, diabetes, a family history of early heart disease, and age, and whereas only 36% of African American women and 34% of Hispanic women know heart disease is their greatest health risk, compared to 65% of Caucasian women. And whereas women involved in the American Heart Association's Go Red for Women's movement lived healthier lives, and nearly 90% have made at least one healthy behavioral change. And whereas Go Red for Women encourages women to take charge of their health and schedule a well woman visit to learn about health status and the risk factor for diseases. And whereas Tarrant County encourages women to make better health a priority for themselves and their families, become aware of their heart disease risk, and take action to control their risk. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby recognize February the 5th, 2016, as National Wear Red Day in Tarrant County. And further, we encourage the citizens of Tarrant County to work together promoting and improving the health of women by increasing awareness and understanding of women and heart disease. In witness whereof, we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this second day of February 2016. And I'll move its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Some of us actually wore red today.
I noticed. I want to give a shout out to everybody who wore red. Thank you.
I'll wear it on February the 5th.
Thank you.
Here is the resolution. Again, thank y'all very much for all the work you do in publicizing this effort and really trying to raise awareness. You've done a tremendous job in the past, and I know you'll continue to do it. So let's get back to it. Just one minute. It would help if I showed you what was in this instead of just the blue thing.
Thank you. What an honor. Thank you very much. My name is Jasmine Holmstrup, and I am the director of the Go Red for Women campaign with the American Heart Association of Tarrant County. I come to the American Heart Association because I am one of the women who was impacted by early heart disease. My mother died of heart disease at the age of 64, and we didn't know that she would have it. My father died of a cardiac arrest at the age of 40. So my mission is to tell everyone in this room to please know your risks and to please be aware of heart disease. Thanks to the effort of Tarrant County and other city organizations and government organizations, and through the entire Go Red for Women movement, we have been able to reduce the number of women dying by heart disease by 30% over the last 10 years. That's 300 women less dying every day. But we have a long way to go. And National Wear Red Day and the Go Red for Women movement is not just about driving awareness and change in individual women and their families. And I say families because we are the ones who get our families to know their risks and to eat healthy. But we strive to impact our community as a whole by highlighting health disparities and the critical need for heart research geared towards women. Our risks are very different. Our symptoms are very different. And by advocating for heart-healthy legislation at the local, state, and national level. So thank you to everyone in this room and to the commissioners and Judge Whitley for going red to fight heart disease. By wearing red on February the 5th, and we will drop off red dress pins for everybody, National Wear Red Day, you will show your support for every woman. You are helping the American Heart Association continue its critical work here in Tarrant County and across the nation. Thank you very much again for this honor. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Now comes one of my favorite times of the month, and that's our employee recognition. So just to kind of refresh you on the drill, I will call your name, you stand up, and then remain standing until that particular group of employees have been recognized, and then we'll move to the next. I do always have to add, because my pronunciations are sometimes a little in question, that if it sounds like your name, or if by logic, you are the next one in the alphabet, stand up. Don't wait for a perfect pronunciation of your name, or you could be waiting for a long time. We're going to begin with our 5-year employees. The first one is Jeremiah Allen, the Sheriff's Office. Ashley Clark with the Sheriff's Office. Ashley Diener, Criminal District Attorney's Office. Cheryl Eagleton, Juvenile Services. Welcome. Carlotta Embry, Sheriff's Office. Laura Harris, Criminal Courts. Jennifer Lindsay, County Clerk's Office. Lori Naylor, Criminal District Court Number 2. Emily Randolph, Precinct 4. And Case Trudeau, Public Health. Let's give these 5-year employees. Now for our 10-year employees. Michelle Armrine, Juvenile Services. Jamie Armrine, Sheriff's Office. Well, I figured if I didn't pronounce the first one right, I could at least get the second one, and I guess I missed them both.
Sort of.
Brian Blackington, Information Technology. Robert Brown, Sheriff's Office. Robert. Dana Caldwell, Sheriff's Office. Jose Cisneros, Transportation Services. Melody Cordell, Public Health. Linda Little, County Auditor's Office. Clara Beth Moats, Juvenile Services. I hear these people out here telling me how I should be pronouncing this. Be careful. One of these days, I might just call on you to do this. Guillermo Montoya. I'm going to have Rachel come up here and start helping with this. Regina Reyes, Public Health. Jerry Upchurch, Sheriff's Office. Jerry. And Ronald Wilkinson, Facilities Management. I just messed that one up all around. These are our 10-year employees. Let's give them a hand. Now for our 15-year employees. Kimberly Divignon, Criminal District Attorney's Office. Lance Deegan, Sheriff's Office. Bradley Gatewood, Juvenile Services. John Michael Jennings, Juvenile Services. Robert Lewis, Juvenile Services. There's Robert. Catherine Martinez, Constable Precinct 3. James Morris, Sheriff's Office. Marianne Cerna, Domestic Relations Office. Perry Leon Sherwood, Precinct 2. Peggy Shermar, County Clerk's Office. Jane Strittmatter, Domestic Relations Office. Nancy Swindle, Extension Office. Michael Tomakara, Sheriff's Office. Crystal Thomas, Sheriff's Office. Patrick Truex, Sheriff's Office. Michael Welborn, Sheriff's Office. Carl Williams, Sheriff's Office. Terrell Williams, Sheriff's Office. These are our 15-year employees. Now for our 20-year employees, Shelley Aguirre, Juvenile Services. David Bailey, Sheriff's Office. Heidi Kading, Sheriff's Office. Tracy Hunter, Sheriff's Office. Judy Ketchum, Resource Connection. Jill Patton, Information Technology. Jill. Renee Tidwell, County Auditor's Office. Yeah, she just signs your checks.
Yours too.
That's right. Maybe. Judge Westfall, 371st District Court. Let's give these 20-year employees. Now for our 25-year employees. Had a chance to talk with many of those. The first is Satem Bat in the CSCD misdemeanor courts area for 25 years. There she is, right over there. Started in the MHMR division, worked for CSCD in the misdemeanor courts, had a chance to work for many years with Judge Mills, and now serves with Judge McCoy. She said Judge Mills was the primary reason why she was here for as long as she's here. She said, I'd never expected to be with the county for that long, but, Judge Mills was just one of those unique and just fantastic individuals. We miss him, but she said at the same time, Judge McCoy has been great. And she really likes having had a chance to work with him. Time has gone by very, very fast. She said she just kind of went on and on about Judge Mills and the fact that, again, it was because of him that she was still with Tarrant County. At the same time saying that Judge McCoy has been extremely supportive and has been very helpful. The whole staff has worked very closely together, but it is a new staff. A lot of folks, retired when Judge Mills retired. She has a son and a daughter. Her son's in finance, is a finance manager over in Dallas. Her daughter is a senior financial analyst in the Plano area. She said she really had hoped that both of them would, or at least one of them would go to law school. I told her she ought to be very proud and happy at the fact that neither one of them went to law school. So Tim, we appreciate very much the 25 years you've given us. Thank you very much. Next is Commissioner Roy Brooks. I think many of you know, but some of the 5 years, some of the folks may not realize that Roy began as the precinct administrator for Precinct 1 and served in that role until he was elected as commissioner in 2004 when Commissioner Bagsby retired. What he said was one of his most memorable moments. He said after the primary, after the runoff, after the general election, was the first time he sat as commissioner and was able to cast that first vote. And you have to think that, okay, I've been in this position, but now I'm there, and I'm pressing that button, I am voting. He said, I love the interesting work, and he said, I really enjoy what I'm doing. It's very self-fulfilling. Before this, he served for 3 terms, 6 years, on the city council in Forest Hill. He's been past president of the National Association of Black County Officials. He said he really felt like he had a public service as a life calling. And I know that, like many of us, our parents had a lot to do with that and had a tremendous influence. Sometimes especially you parents who have young kids, you never understand why they will never listen to you or do anything you want them to do. But it's amazing how many times, if you look at what that child does when they become an adult, it mirrors very closely to what their parents did in the teachings and the important things that they put forward. Since last we talked, he says, I still don't have any weddings, and thankfully no grandchildren. Because of the first, not because of anything else. His son is actually in Los Angeles, is in entertainment law, and he said that the partners in that firm have actually kind of gone into film production, and they just actually produced the first film. So if it's an Oscar next year, then there's no telling what we'll be seeing.
I just hope it makes a little money.
Well, yeah, I understand that too. His daughter Royce has been centered and focused on public policy. Had worked on the campaign for Sylvester Turner, who resigned from the state senate to run for the mayor of the city of Houston, who won that election in a runoff, and so she's now serving on the transition team. Roy was this past summer elected as second vice president of NACO, and so next summer, not this July, but July of 17, he will become the president of the National Association of Counties, and we're all very proud of him for that. His wife, Jennifer, has retired. She was with Fort Worth ISD for many years. She's now working as a consultant and basically goes into those low-performing schools and works with the administration and with the teachers in those areas to try to help them improve their scores and their ratings in the state. Roy, you have truly dedicated your life to public service, and we appreciate that very, very much. Thank you.
I want to thank the most awesome administrative staff in county government. Y'all stand up. Don't call my office right now because there's nobody to answer the phone. There is. Good job.
It's a call forwarding feature.
Just call forward down here, and Rachel or our folks will take care of you for it. The next individual is Mike Connor, who is with the district clerk's office, but he was not going to be able to make it today. Mike has been with us for actually 30 years, but because of our unique way of counting years, we've got him counted as 25, which means he left for a while and then came back. But he's actually spent 30 years in county government. He is actually retiring at the end of March. So if you see Mike, congratulate him and thank him for his 30 years of service to the citizens of Tarrant County. Next is Carmen Inglis, Sheriff Booking, 25 years. Started out at Cold Springs. Has been a supervisor at the jail. And then went to the TDC desk. Memorable moments were just one time I think you had been on, but when you were on patrol, you actually had come upon an accident that happened right in front of you where there was the mother, I guess, who was 80, and the daughter was in her 60s. And he really kind of helped calm the situation down, and I think helped them out very, very much. He said, I love the interaction with the public. I've made a lot of friends over the years. Have seen a lot of people come and go, but it's been a very interesting ride. His wife works at the bond desk, or did work at the bond desk, may still, but they actually met. They were both working for the county, and they actually met at a place called the Rocking Rodeo. And it wasn't until, don't start Do you want to kind of talk about what went through your mind when you just laughed right? On their second day, they got to talking and saying, well, where do you work? And found out that they both work for the sheriff's department. So, his wife is now, well, she's now in criminal warrants. If I had just read a little bit further down or remembered what I'd written earlier. So she's still with the sheriff's department also. Son is playing baseball for Boswell and is just beginning to drive. An 11-year-old who is fixing to go to med school. How about middle school?
Close.
If she's, I think what you just said, and I agree with, if she's like my 11-year-old, she certainly believes she's smart enough to go to med school. Him and his wife are going to celebrate their 20th anniversary on March the 15th. And he's just said it's just been a great ride. So we really want to thank you for the 25 years you've given at Tarrant County. Thank you very much, Carl. Next is Pam Crimp, 348th District Court. Started in the clerk's office and worked there for 19 years, then retired, and then then she came back to work for Judge Womack's court, and she's working as her coordinator. She said, I've had some great times with the judges over the years. She said, I love the benefits, the people that she's had a chance to work with. She feels like she's had the chance to work with some of the best judges in Tarrant County. She said, I wouldn't have come back except for Dana. She said, Dana, I just felt so pleased with her and so much wanted to help her. She said, I retired once and I came back for Judge Womack. Now I'm retiring. I think at the end, I guess it'll be at the end of the year when Judge Womack retires. And so we just want to tell you, Pam, how much we appreciate the years of service you've given to Tarrant County. Thank you. Next is Chuck Malin with the District Attorney's Office. There's Chuck back there. Started out in the appellate section under Chris Marshall and came from the Court of Criminal Appeals, promoted to Deputy Chief. Now is the Discovery Compliance Liaison with various police departments within the county. He said his memorable moments were working with great DAs that he's had an opportunity to work with over the 25 years. And he said, I've also been able to try some great cases. He said, I love the fact that the employees are very fortunate in this county to have always focused on the citizens and the employees. He said, I've really enjoyed working for the county. When I asked him about the last 5 years, he said, I just keep my head down and just keep on working hard. He has received board certification in the criminal appellate law area. I believe you were already board certified in the criminal law, but he received the certification in the appellate law area. And so, Chuck, we again appreciate very much the 25 years of service you've given us. Next is Cloyd Polk with the Sheriff's Department, the North Patrol area, 25 years. Said started out in the Green Bay facility, then moved into the patrol area, made sergeant in 2003. Memorable moments, it was the helicopter crash, unfortunately, and that's something that I think we all do remember. He said, I love the people I've had a chance to work with and the freedom to do what he feels like is best for his area. And again, I think that's the flexibility that leadership and department heads and folks give to their employees, and I think it's what makes us great. What I asked him what had happened over the last 5 years. He said, I've taken over the special units area, which includes livestock, HOV, the safety patrol folks that we see, Crime Watch, illegal dumping, and National Night Out. When I first came on the court, Constable in Precinct 3 was taking care of the livestock, and they can tell you some stories. But also the safety patrol, the folks that are out there on the highway. I get stopped pretty frequently and thanked for what a tremendous job those folks do in taking care and helping people that are on our highways. It's just one of those things that we do that sometimes we don't realize what an impact it makes. Cloyd, we appreciate very much the 25 years of service you've given us. 785 years of service. I wish that we could do a whole lot more than just recognize you and say thank you. You are what makes Tarrant County such a great place to live, to raise a family, and we just very much appreciate it. We got refreshments back in 504C. Head on back there. Wilder's already left. So, it's the feast has already begun.
Could we have a 5-minute?
We can have a 5-minute break. Thank y'all.
You say you get stopped a lot?
Not by them. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Can I have a motion to receive and file the employee recognition?
So moved. Second.
A motion and a second to receive and file the employee recognition. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius? Nope. Ms. Tidwell?
We have 3 items for the court to consider this morning. The first is approval and release of $139,987,000 of collateral as outlined in your court communique.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our next item is asking for authorization to remove assets from the county asset management system as listed in your court communique. The total of the $39,566.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second. You know, I understand the removing of the property. I understand it's zero and it just ends up with this huge thing. But I also, when asked the question of, okay, you've got an item on here, and if it all of a sudden is no longer listed, what happens to it? And how are we accounting for those items? And I don't have a good response for that. And I know, I mean, from a CPA standpoint, I understand immateriality and all of that, but from just a stingy bean counter, I have a problem with, we got something out here that belongs to us that we no longer are trying to keep track of. And I don't know if we could set up a sheet that just says, you gotta, you know, if I got a desk in my office and it's no longer there and that desk comes up missing the next day, then I still don't think we've done a good job of kind of overseeing what we've got. Now, at times it just becomes time to send it to the warehouse and let Jack or somebody else try to get rid of it.
Do we do this first? Do we do this procedure first? Because like a mobile air storage system, it's not like a building.
No. All of these items, we've put quite a bit of resource, both purchasing, auditor's office, and the department's time in trying to identify the items, determine what happened to them. In many instances, they have, not only are they fully depreciated or have no value, but they become where they have no functional value either, and so they get disposed of in some way, and yet the paperwork may not always track the actual disposition of the asset. Some of these were items that the grant, when they were acquired, the grant intended that they be given to another agency or to another area. There could have been better paperwork, certainly, that was kept in regards to where those assets went, but they were distributed in terms of accordance with the grant. If you were to think again about of all the assets that the county has and the decentralized nature of the business and the fact that the purchasing office has one employee dedicated to this task, and that we've then asked the department heads and the other elected officials to assist in keeping up with that. But again, it's a huge task that would involve all over 4,000 employees that come in contact with these assets. I think the process works well. It'd be great to stand here and have it be zero. Is that going to happen? Probably not. There's always going to be something. We have strengthened our controls and our processes since last year when the list was longer and we had more items. Again, a lot of times things maybe got traded in the past, and it's really a matter, I think, of the paperwork not following what actually happened to the asset. I don't have any reason to believe that people are in any way misappropriating or disposing of assets in an improper way, other than just not following the paperwork process and the process. These departments, we will continue to work with these departments and their department heads to try to improve this process.
So what we said is this first group is the 18 that we couldn't find. We're removing those from the inventory.
The attachment A are the items
But
specifically.
then we found 9 of them later.
There were some that were identified later, yes, but we're still asking that they be removed. That's correct. Again, some of the items were turned over to the other agencies, as I pointed out. Again, some of the items were just not functioning, but they were not disposed of. I mean, there's 2 or 3 departments that are responsible for the items that you have today. Again, I think it's prudent to focus on these departments in the education process because overall they are fairly isolated to certain couple of areas. Again, we're working with purchasing and even in my own office to make sure that we are communicating and doing the best job we can to make sure people are following the paperwork process. And again, you're only looking at a small number of even areas that have this issue this time. I mean, it's isolated.
And we're also trying to change some of our practices. And let me give you an example. When it comes to emergency management and with the fire marshal's office, we get grants from the federal government and we buy equipment that we disperse to fire units or the fire departments within our municipalities. We're trying to examine if rather than us acquiring property and handing it to the units themselves, rather we might be able to actually do some type of an arrangement where we give them the money, let them buy the equipment so they get it on their inventory. That way we don't have this type of issue.
And the process is coming back to the emergency management section and not being left to reside in the fire marshal's office.
Right.
So there are some changes being made in these areas, and again, it is only a couple of areas. So if we focus on addressing those areas then and continue our overall processes that we're doing, I think that's the prudent thing that we need to do, and that's what we're following.
And I guess as I'm looking at this, the 9 items that were found were not on these were not one of these 18, but these were apparently assets that were found that we had eliminated in prior years.
Right. These are the only items that we're asking you to consider writing off today that could not be found or are not available for disposition. And so there's a lot more verbiage in here about the reconciliation and the accounting for the items. But again, out of all of the thousands and thousands of assets that we only have the small list today.
Renee, I have a question about an item. It's on the second list, attachment B, assets omitted from inventory yet verified on hand. And it's the very first item, the card access system at the Dion Bagsby Southwest Courthouse. That is part of the building locking system. And once it was attached to the building, it became a fixture, not a freestanding asset. That's why it wasn't on the list.
Okay.
It's a fixture.
And I guess, okay, Jack is hovering in the back. That particular list is the assets that were omitted from inventory yet verified on hand. So is that just a matter that we
didn't put it on the list, on the inventory?
And don't each one of us get an inventory that?
Yes. You get an inventory list, and then we ask you, purchasing asks you based on the list to also look at the list and see if the list is accurate and provide a rendering more or less of the assets that you are in custody of that ultimately the elected official or department head is accountable for. There are things that for whatever reason, and some of these, certainly Commissioner Brooks's comment about being fixtures, even though they may not have been capitalized, included in the cost of the building, but maybe could have, but we have these items here that for whatever reason did not get included. We then, of course, anytime you enter a purchase rec that's acquiring an asset, it gets an asset code and it goes into the SAP asset system. That is the list that is also given to purchasing, that purchasing works off of. And so again, these are just some, shelving. It would be easy to overlook shelving. Some of the things here, some of the workstations, they're not items, again, that were missing, they just somehow didn't get on the list. I don't, again, have the total dollar value and the numerical count, but this would be a really, really small portion of the county's assets. I mean, when Jack brings me a book, the book's like this. It's this thick. Of all the, if you think about it, of all the assets that are owned by the county that we're tracking, and then the ones that we're not tracking that we're still inventorying, I mean, the list is like this, and you're being asked to consider like one page. So
I understand that, but you also understand that we look at it from a standpoint of this
Right.
big.
Right.
If somebody picks this up and says, and I'm not, I mean, it looks to me like we found these things and we're
Well,
putting
yeah,
them on the list.
attachment B, there isn't a problem with
Yeah,
attachment
we're
B.
putting those on the list.
So it's the $39,000 on attachment A.
Right, because if I go up to a, you know, if, as a citizen who is not dealing with a gazillion, and they say, well, you know, a file cabinet, well, you got a $1,000 file cabinet, which tells me it's probably more than one, or it's a specialized file cabinet. You know, the $1,000, you know, where's the file cabinet? Or where's the fax, I mean, the fax machine would be, probably is in the trash can.
Well, then my comment I have to say is, and you'll have to allocate more resources, because with the small amount of resources that we have, that we put on this, and that we're all very dedicated to, there is not any way that we'll ever be able to account for everything unless there were more resources and more emphasis placed on this. Maybe you even have to tie the budget. I mean, the fact that if someone can't find an asset, you're going to hold someone accountable. I mean, people are doing the best job they can with the resources they have. Again, Jack only has one person. I technically only have one person. And
Well,
so
and
we're
every department
leaning-
has one person.
Right. But I'm saying even I have one person to account for all of them in SAP. I'm not talking about my person for the assets under my custody. I'm saying Jack has one person to inventory, and I have one person to account.
I understand,
And
Renee.
so all I'm saying is we need more assets then, if you want us to do
You mean more
more than what's
people,
here.
not more assets. We
Yes,
got plenty of
more
assets.
resources, yes, people.
And I mean, because, well, obviously I don't have anybody on this particular list or any piece of asset on this particular list. But I mean, I think we need to stress to everybody, they need to be conscious of it. Because when somebody comes up and says, we lost $39,000 worth of equipment, who's following that? Who's taking care of that? I mean, so we need to, I guess, the immateriality part just doesn't stick with me on this. And I know each one of our departments, each one of our elected officials get that inventory and are responsible for figuring out what happened to something. And then when it gets so old that we're not using it anymore, then let's get rid of it. Let's sell it. Let's do an online deal. Let's do something and
We
get it out
assume
there.
that we did that, we have reason to believe we did that, but the paperwork didn't flow. The biggest part of the problem here is that the paperwork had been turned in, and again, the law is very clear that the purchasing agent is the only person who can dispose of assets. So the assets have to go back to through the process of the purchasing agent, the paperwork has to be completed. We don't know that these assets weren't appropriately disposed of. They could have gone to auction, they could have gone to be disposed of, but again, if the tag wasn't there and somehow someone overlooked that, you know, the good news again is in the past we've had computers and other items that were more susceptible to theft that were not accounted for. Quite honestly, some of these items that were not accounted for this year are, you know, they're larger, more bulky items like the file cabinet and more specialized equipment. And again, we don't have any reason to believe that they weren't properly disposed of, but we certainly know there was no paperwork. That's clearly what the problem is. They can't be removed unless the department renders the paperwork. And if you get rid of an asset in some fashion and the paperwork gets missed, then that's, you wind up here at this point too on this list.
Okay.
Renee, the cost, the dollar value on this list, that's the acquisition
That was
value?
the cost, yes. And they're,
That's what we pay for originally.
right. And they're from 1998 with the most current item on here obviously being in 2009.
So the dollar value listed on here may not be accurate.
No,
It
the
doesn't
dollar
reflect
value is
the-
what we paid for it. It
That's what
wouldn't-
we pay for,
Right.
right? So
Right.
the value may be zero.
Well, the net book value is zero. That's
right?
the other
It
column,
may
yes,
cost
sir.
us money to dispose of it.
Some items do, but again, we have a way of auctioning or disposing of the surplus. Again, purchasing does a great job with, having their auctions and their ability to wholesale off items that don't have a lot of, don't have any book value, but clearly obviously have limited market value in some instances.
Just one more question, at the risk of beating a dead horse to death. Typically, we have considered items capital items if they cost $500 or more. We've got three $278 items on here and one $76 item. How did they become capital?
Well, we don't capitalize them for financial statement purposes. We do have a much higher threshold for recording them in the financial statements and tracking them from the financial statements. But we also ask departments, though, to inventory and keep up with the lower dollar threshold items or items that have, again, would be more susceptible to like a digital camera. I mean, even the digital cameras might have been a smaller dollar amount, but we keep up with certain items in an effort, again, not to have the questions that y'all have raised as far as that we don't know where our assets are. So that's why you have some of these items. They're not actually capitalized for accounting purposes, but we are tracking them or inventorying them.
Okay.
Any other questions? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our last item, we're asking the court to receive and file the Tarrant County financial statements for the period ended November of 2015.
Move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Snyder.
The Risk Management Board is recommending the approval of the claim to Marina Smith and Service King, and the second one is supplemental damages to a previously approved claim.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Mr. Phillips. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's requested that Commissioners Court approve a request by the Criminal District Attorney's Office for a painted mural in the family waiting area on the 4th floor of the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What's the mural of?
Yeah, what are we painting here?
A country scene with some trees, a barn, and those sorts of things.
You got a doghouse with a dog?
Little doghouse inside, yes.
So he's going to have Brady on the top of the doghouse?
Brady,
Is that his name?
Brady, yeah.
How appropriate.
there's a place for him to go.
Do you have a motion?
We don't have squat yet. We don't have squat yet.
Yeah, you got a motion.
Do we?
Sure, and a second.
Well, that blew right by me. This has not been a good day here. You ready to take over?
No, you got this in such a mess, I don't want any part of
It ain't gonna get any better. So we have gone from basically not putting paintings and things like that on walls or paying for any of that to painting a wall, a mural on a wall.
This would be paint. This is an artist would be doing this kind of.
So what?
Out of the kindness of their heart.
This is
I mean-
this is not in the hallway. It's in a different area.
Okay, so you all know that on the 9th floor, we already have a family waiting room. It's next to the Special Victims Unit, and it's for families and children who are there for their trials. We also have the Victim Assistance Office, which is a regular waiting room. Many of the trials are not that involve child witnesses are not in the Special Victims Unit. We have just as many of those that are assigned to the regular courts, which are on the 4th floor. So we have dedicated a space on the 4th floor that is separate and apart from the rest of the office for families and kids who are waiting for their trials. And just like the family waiting room on the 9th floor has a mural painted on the wall, it's a tree. With some... It's just one wall, it's a tree. We wanted to paint this mural on the wall in the family waiting room on the 4th floor so that it mirrored what's available for the families on the 9th floor. That's what that is.
Who painted the tree?
I have no earthly idea.
He's fixing to tell me.
Oh, who's painting this one?
No, who painted the last one? Because, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, if I am, then that's great. But when I remodeled a sub-courthouse, and when I moved in to Judge Vandergrift's office, I have been told that the policy of the county is that we don't buy pictures, that we don't paint walls or pictures and stuff like that. And so I'm just trying to figure out when we transition to a new policy.
This is not out of the general fund. I believe this is forfeiture funds. It was not requested to come out of the general fund.
Okay, so
That's why my department.
you're paying for this.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's why it's up here.
But it is that is our policy.
Yes. It has to be standard county paint. If it's maintenance and repairs and such, we don't bring it to court. If it's something special like this, I do.
Move approval.
I think we already got the motion and second from what I've been told, so you're helping with the confusion. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Don't come in my house.
I'm not coming anywhere near that.
And look at the
It's a wall on the stuff on your wall. Yes, sir. I understand that.
Good morning.
I'm glad you got up here.
Move
what have
approval
you
to
got to
receive
bring to us
and file the
today?
personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion
Thank
passes
you.
unanimously.
We have 3 additional items for the court this morning. The second item, we're asking the court to waive terminal benefits for Precinct 1. Commissioner Brooks is requesting a waiver of 192 vacation hours effective January the 25th. The net cost to the Road and Bridge Fund will be approximately $650.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3, we're asking the court to approve an out-of-class pay extension for JP3. You've seen this item before. If approved, I think this will take us through the early part of May. The cost to the general fund will be approximately $1,600.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our 4th item, I'm going to ask Ms. Worthy to come up.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rob.
So I am here to talk about our payment method for the Pebc Wellness Program, which is our rewards program. We began participating in that program in 2015. Full-time employees that are enrolled in our medical plan can participate. In year 1, this past year, we allowed employees to earn points and be awarded a $300 reward, and the employees had a variety of ways that they could accept that reward. As far as participation, we had 468 employees that earned a reward. 60% chose cash, 33% chose their flexible spending account, or FSA, and 7% chose the health savings account. In year 2, our current year, both the employee who is enrolled in our medical plan and their eligible spouse can participate in the program, and they can earn up to $600. So the rewards are based, you can earn points throughout the year, but based on when you get to your 300 points determines when you get your reward. If you get your points by March 31st, the employee and the spouse, you can have the reward by May 31st. If you get the points by June 30th, you could have your reward by the end of August, and then through the end of October, those are granted by the end of December. Currently, employees have 3 choices on how they receive these rewards. They can have a contribution to their flexible spending account, their health savings account, or they can choose cash. And as I mentioned before, 60% did choose cash. What we would like to do today is present 3 options to you on possibly making changes to the way that we reward those. And the reason we're doing this is based on some administrative challenges and employee usage and access to the rewards and some of the issues related to that. So option 1 would be to just continue as we are now, where employees through the 3 reward cycles could still make a full choice of an FSA, an HSA, or a cash reward. As I mentioned before, that has had some administrative challenges, and employees have to be very cognizant of the IRS rules with regard to any rewards related to FSA or HSA, and then of course the cash rewards are subject to deductions, FICA, FIT, retirement.
What would be the precaution regarding the FSA?
Well, what happens is if you waited, for example, especially those individuals that take their rewards in December, there is a restriction on the amount that can be rolled over. So, for example, if you got the $600 on that December reward, the IRS only allows $500 to be rolled over, so they might automatically forfeit $100 of that. So that's something that employees would need to be aware of and manage. Okay? And there's also some restrictions on health savings accounts with the amount that you can put in, the employee can put in. So option 2 would be that we would continue to allow employees a choice for the first 2 reward periods, those reward periods that end in March and June. And then for the third reward period that would allow the reward in December, we would restrict their choice to cash only, or they wouldn't have a choice. It would be cash only. So that would allow employees that went ahead and kind of worked the program early in the year to continue to have a choice, meaning that they could have it in their FSA or HSA. But those employees that didn't get their points till towards the end of the year, they would be restricted to cash only. Okay? It has similar pros and cons. Obviously, it would ease some of our administrative burden. Employees would still have to be cognizant of working the program and the deadlines based on the choices they wanted to have. And then for option 3, we would continue with option 2 for 2016, meaning the first 2 pay cycles, they would have a choice. The final cycle, they would have cash only. And then in 2017, we would go strictly to cash only. We would not allow the rewards to go into an FSA or an HSA account. And I'm happy to try to answer any questions you might have.
My preference would be to leave it as it is. We already are not having a full year of a wellness program. We're having 10 months because, and I understand that, but basically by us cutting it off at October the 1st, we give 2 months, and if the employee ends up putting money in an FSA and they can't spend it or it can't roll over, what I think we need to do is look and see if there's not a way that we can't give them the money in 30 days versus the 60 days that we've got set up right now. I'm certainly not for requiring it to be taken in cash. But you know, that's you had a pretty good idea that was going to be my opinion.
Absolutely.
I second that motion.
Okay.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Vinny, I hope you got some good news. I obviously had too much sugar before I came in here today.
So this morning we're requesting approval to submit a grant application to NACHO, which is the National Association of County and City Health Officials, for a Lessons in Infection Control Initiative grant. And this is a education and training grant for our epidemiology staff. The topic that we've requested that we get training on is healthcare associated infections. Typically in Texas we don't have a lot of funding coming towards that area. And this is a unique opportunity. It's a reimbursement type of grant. So we expect we'll probably spend around $13,000 and be reimbursed for that from NACHO to send our staff to some trainings.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinny.
One of the things I would like to go back to, because I mean we talked about the payroll and we talked about our folks in payroll do a fantastic job. When we get to the end of the year, not only do they have to get that paycheck out and get everything else started, but then they also have to get all the W-2s out. And I know our payroll folks work some pretty long hours for a couple of weeks just to make sure. I mean, we all think, well, it hits our bank account on Friday. Really, Thursday in some instances. It is not something that goes unnoticed by some, but I know the rest, a lot of people just think it happened. You know, it's going to happen every 2 weeks, and everything's going to go just perfectly. We appreciate everything y'all do in that area. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Come on forward. Hi.
Did y'all notice Vinny's tie? His closet tie? Should have stayed in the closet.
Moving right along.
We have 2 items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for RFP 2015-091. It's an RFP for the design and implementation of the Disaster Management Business Continuity Program for the Information Technology Department. Recommendation will be toward the SunGuard availability of services, the amount of $646,597. If this is approved by the court, we're seeking contract approval.
Great, a great step forward in keeping this county running in the event of a disaster. Move approval.
I'll second, but I do have a couple questions, if I may.
I'll second for discussion purposes.
Thank you, sir. The total amount is $646,597. I looked at the itemized items. I don't know how you add up to that amount. Is that a 2-year contract, 3 years contract?
Good question, Commissioner. Let me have Mr. Crawford, who is Director of the PPMO.
That's what I'm trying to get at. That's $646,000. Is it for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years? That's what I'm trying to get at.
It's for the total contract of over a 3-year period.
Over a total 3 years, right?
Yes.
So it's not 646 per year.
No.
It's 646 for 3 years.
It's for the total solution, 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And our second and last item is also a bid award recommendation for RFP 2016-039. It's an RFP for mosquito-controlled aerial spraying for the Public Health Department. Recommendation will be toward Clark Environmental Mosquito Management Incorporated per the contract terms.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Skinner. Morning.
Good morning.
We are requesting the court's approval of a memorandum of understanding related to improvements to State Highway 26 from John Mccain to Brown Trail.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Are there any appointments today? I will let y'all, what I've asked my office to do on all of our various committees that we appoint to is to produce a list that says, here's your appointments, here's when they began, here's when they were last appointed, just as a kind of a FYI or a this is where we are type deal. Not that we've got any, I don't know that we've got vacancies or where we may have, but every once in a while I'm going to try to get the office to get that out so that we just keep everybody up to date on that.
Good.
You have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including this.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
We do not have any briefing items this morning.
Okay. Then we'll recess the open meeting to proceed to close to discuss items exempted under section 551.071, 072, 074, 076, and 087 of the Texas Government Code. Having returned from our closed session and there being no business to conduct at this time, we stand adjourned.